everyone. Welcome to Marketing in Asia. This is Komal. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It's such a lovely day in Sydney today. It's so bright and sunny, and so good to be able to do this with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking out your time. I know you're a super busy person and you have taken out time for us. We are truly grateful for you for this. And Koon, let me introduce yourself, to the audience. To all our audience, Koon is such a wonderful person, and I would say that she has got a natural gift of connecting with people, and you can see she has such a charismatic personality, and she makes a person so comfortable around her. Because Koon, I remember when we first met
Hmm.
on Zoom call,
Yes.
and that Zoom call was scheduled for half an hour.
Hmm.
But by the time we realized, we already crossed 2 hours. And
That's it.
yeah, and the session was such a wonderful session from your side. It was insightful, it was informative, and I was, after that, I was like, wow, I have met a person who has such a good vibes. And once I shift to Australia, Sydney, I will meet you in person. And after meeting in person, it's the same. You have such a good vibes, right?
Thank you so much, Kamal. Thank you so much. And definitely the feeling is mutual. I've enjoyed our conversation and yeah, the sense of like closeness that I feel like with you and the marketing in Asia. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. And by the introduction, Koon is a leadership coach. And I would say her coaching is such an authentic and insightful. And you also have worked with PwC for
Hmm.
20 years.
Yes, 20
Right.
years, long time.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. So, Kun, for our audience, would you please let us know more about your family, your kids? How old are they? Which school they are going? Which grade are they? Over to you.
Thank you, Kamal. So, by background, I'm a Malaysian Chinese, and I came here to Australia as an international student. So at that time, the whole idea was after I finish, I would go back home. But I met my husband in uni. He was sitting just across me in the
Wow.
uni lecture, and it was the start of a friendship. And then after that, it was like, oh yeah, let's date. And then eventually after uni we then got married, and I've always wanted kids. I come from a family of three siblings, and my mom is one of 10. My father is one of four. So
Oh,
big family is my thing. Big family is my thing, and I've always wanted kids. So I had my three boys. So they're now 14, 12, and 8. At a relatively youngish age, when I was working at PwC, most people will have kids when they are at director or partner level. I was like, even before I hit manager, I was like, I'm gonna have kids. I'm not gonna wait.
so
So
sweet.
for me, having kids and families and all of that is very important to me.
Awesome, awesome. So, you just mentioned you have three kids. So, how do you balance, motherhood with in your professional and personal life?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Gosh, balance. I don't even think it exists. More like a seesaw, you know.
Yeah.
Um, there are times when it's heavy on the kids, and then there are times when it's heavy at the professional life. So, and it's a constant, and sometimes within a day that seesaw will happen. It is definitely stressful. There are days when it's so hard, and you do face, like I remember I came back from my first parental leave, and I was still quite how would I say, in a way, quite idealistic. I was like, yep, I can have it all, no problem. There's none of this like slowing down business. I can have the kids and I can still pursue my career. And that was the start of the barriers. When I leave the office 5:30, because I even deliberately have the childcare center in the city. I can feel the eyes of judgment behind my back.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I had a and I had a few of those where like opportunities will just get bypassed. There's always this assumption that because I'm now a mom and therefore I must not be interested in my career anymore. And of course, at home it was definitely challenging. Trying to have all the young kids and try to do work. You feel like you're never good enough as a mom and you're never good enough at work. And then it's coupled with then I remember this person who I work with very, very well before I had kids. But the moment I had kids, it changes completely. And he started implying a lot of like questioning my competence, questioning my commitment. And the last straw was it was a job ad, and he pointed at a job ad and said, "Hey, this might be a job for you." I
I
was that
see.
I was so annoyed,
Oh my
and
God.
I didn't know how to respond, but eventually I kind of took up the courage to raise it up with HR and raise it up with my boss. And at that time as well, work is not set up to support.
Yeah.
And when this kind of stuff happen, they don't really know what to do.
Correct.
But they made me sit in the mediation with this guy,
Mhm.
and his thing was like, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way." So it was back on me, right? But I did remember there was an advice from the mother of one of my friends, and she said, whatever this kind of stuff happen, make sure that you are not the one that end up being punished. So I said to them, I want that senior person to be off the project
Wow.
because I didn't feel like because you know like I wasn't the perpetrator, right? And
Yeah.
so I need to assert myself and say I want him to be off the project. And so they did pull him off the project. So that was my first lesson to stand up for myself and make sure that I don't get victimized. The second thing, it did start off the notion of, where do I go next with my career? That I can have, be there for my kids because I wanted to work part time.
Yeah.
Um, so when you want to work part time, the choices then become very limited. And that time, it was a choice of the comfortable L&D role, which I love, and I've done it. And also this, at that point in time, transformation. It was a new thing, it was quite novel. And I remember the person who interviewed me, and he said like, "Oh, well, that role could be made redundant." But it was a role that I could balance, kind of seesaw for my kids. Um, and I spoke to a friend, and this is then the second advice. She said it's not the job that create you the opportunities, it's you creating your own opportunities. And so while the job had a risk that it could be made redundant, I could see the opportunity, which is the opportunity because it's new. So I can make it whatever I want it to be. I have a lot of flexibility. So that's one. I'm going to learn a lot of new things, and I'm going to build a lot of new relationship. So whilst I might have kind of stepped away from the what I thought was my career pathway, taking that risk where I'm also learning new things then really set me off on a very different trajectory. But importantly was I'm able to be there for my kids. Um, the playground, the reading group. I'm not saying it's easy. It's tough, but it didn't feel like a compromise because I actually gotten something that was important to me, my kids, as well as learning. So that was the thing that, when we think about this whole notion of balance, broaden the perspective in terms of what that mean. Whilst there might be something that we feel is a setback, and we feel it's challenging to be a parent, what are the other upsides that we are also getting from whatever it is that's in front of us? So those no balance. So up until now, still no balance. I'm still on a seesaw.
No, cool, but the things you were saying, I can, hats off to you, because after listening to you, you have gone to a journey, after being a mom, and this, while talking, it sounds very relaxed. Yeah, it is like that. It is like that, childcare and all that. But actually, when you're on ground and kids are here and you're into new job, you are going into this, the upward ladder. I know it's very tough. It's very tough. So hats off to you. And I'm literally getting goosebumps. And I'm writing all the points to apply on myself also, because I'm also, juggling in here and there in everything. So because everything is new. So yeah, thank you so much for all these pointers. And I'm sure it is very challenging in maintaining these two things. So kids are growing, and they think a lot of things are going into their mind. So what's something you have learned
Mm.
from your kids, in that
Wow.
transition, in that phase?
I've learned so much from my kids, and one of the things I learned so much from them is around being really to let to let go, to give
Yeah,
them space. So I definitely come from the culture of like high expectation, you know, high achievements, right? And it's come from a space of um, from a space of because there was a lot of discrimination for me growing up. So, and a lot of sacrifices being made by my parents, right? To give all of us a better life. So there was that I understood where that expectation, come from, and the method that parents that generation know how to use. Um, but here with my kids, those methods are not methods that, well, one, it's a crime to use those methods. You definitely have to be a lot more creative and a lot more patient. And there's a lot more choices. And when it came to school, I find myself, this kicking in of like high academic achievement, right? I just go, oh, why they're not getting the A's and why they're not getting the A plus. I know that that's going on in my head.
yeah.
And they were coming back with like C's and everything. Um, and I was like, oh my God, how can a kid of mine getting C, right? And then, but what I did have to learn was that one, they all take time to grow. Two, I got to hold myself back to give them the space to grow because schools are made for a standardized avatar of a perfect student,
True.
but my children are not, and they're creative, they're active, they take a lot of risks, and I had to realize that I need to pull back
Yeah.
so that they have space. So I said to my son the other day, I say, hey, there's a lot of things that I've learned from growing up, that as a parent would be like kind of keep you in, you know. Um, and I'm trying to unlearn that, and it's taking me time to unlearn that because I know that schools are not really made for, you know, how you would like to grow. So that
True.
I need to learn to hold myself back so that you have the space to grow. So, be patient with me. And my son said to me, "That's okay, Mama."
How sweet.
So he was more kind to me than
Yeah.
I was kind to him.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson there around sometimes as parents, we can get anxious about our children and their future, but it's about how do we pull back so that they have their space to grow and thrive in their own way, in their own special way. So that was a big lesson there.
True, good. Because I have seen a lot of mothers, I would not comment on further on that, but they want their kids to be, an engineer, doctor, or something like that.
Yeah.
But like some kids, like my kids, like your kids, they are creative. Like my daughter wants to be a fashion designer,
Mm,
and my son wants to be the repairing cars and all that
yes.
stuff. Yeah, so I truly agree with you. Let them go, let them explore what they are good into it. So if we pressurize, they will not do good. If
There's
they do your
someone
own
get
thing.
me someone gave me an analogy. They say it's a bit like, you're as a parent, you're like that big tree,
Yeah,
right? And your kids are that little seedlings under that tree. And for a while, that big tree is a protection.
true.
Um, but there will be a limit to the growth of that little tree because now they're being covered, from the sunshine, from, the nutrients and everything. It's only by kind of like that big tree moving to the side can that little tree grow to become big.
Yeah.
So I have that kind of analogy in my head and go, I don't want to be the big tree that suffocates my children.
Yeah. So true. So, Akun, while juggling into all these things, kids are giving you
Mm.
advice, you are taking kids' advice, and, going to office. So, I'm sure, you might be discussing all these things from your mom,
Mm.
right? So, any good advice, good advice your mom has given you. So, you are putting that into your day-to-day life.
So my mum gave me a lot of good advice, and I'm really appreciative of it. But one advice that she gave me was around being financially independent. She
True.
said, you're going to be giving yourself to your work, to your husband, to your children, but you must also look after yourself. There are many ways to look after ourselves. And one of those ways that was important to her, especially from her generation, was around financial independence. Like she has seen a lot, you know, um, like abuse that happen because there's this inequality or divorces that has happened, and how that impacts, the woman who has given so much of their life to the family. So she said to me, you have to make sure that you are financially independent. As much as you're looking after everybody else, financially, you got to look after yourself. And that was a, a very practical, pragmatic advice. And I appreciate it and make sure that I'm financially independent so that I always have this kind of confidence and courage, right, to stand up for myself because I'm not dependent on anybody. So even though money sometimes can feels a bit like uncomfortable to learn and all of that, it is a really good skill to have. So be interested in the money aspect.
That's a very good advice because once you're financially stable, you get self confidence also, and yeah, I think if you have self confidence, you will be perfect mother, perfect wife, and you will be perfect in professional life. I think yeah, that's a very good advice. You have got it. So, Kun, I know this is my personal favorite question,
Oh
and
yes.
you know, and I also want some advice. What should I do on my Mother's Day? Because I'm sure my family members have not, thought about it. I'm for sure. So, how do you celebrate Mother's Day? I just wanted to ask you.
So I just said to my kids on Mother's Day, please, everyone go out the house and then do whatever you need to do outside the house. I just want some peace and quiet by myself at home, where either I'm snuggling in bed, with a cup of like tea. Peace and quiet. Peace and quiet is the best Mother's Day present for me.
True, that's true. You know, and when I told the same thing to my daughter because she asked me what do you want, you know what answer she gave? She gave, but mom, we cannot leave you alone. It's a Sunday.
I was like, that would be that would be the best thing. And especially when the kids were younger,
Yes.
I couldn't even go to the bathroom by myself. I was like, please, the best thing you could do, and I'm not one into gifts. And
Hmm.
but one of my friends did say to me, sometimes for the kids, the gift is not about you. The gifts is about the kids feeling the joy of giving you something. So
Yeah.
I've learned to also accept that graciously. Whatever that they give me is to accept that graciously. But of course, if they can leave me alone, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that's true, cool. And I really enjoy talking to you, and lot of things I think I have taken personally, and our audience who is listening, I'm sure they have a lot of takeaways. to implement in their life, like you just let us know, like seesaw, how to perfect that seesaw, and just give yourself time, and how to counter in your professional life, in the things you are not comfortable with in your professional culture. So thank you so much, Koon. It was lovely talking to you. I hope you feel the same, about this session.
Yes, definitely. It's been wonderful talking to you, Kamal. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Koon. You have a good day.
You too. Happy
Wonderful.
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.